Good morning, I'm Brad Phillips. I'm here with Puppy Steps Training, and today we're going to be doing Dash's demo. We are very excited to send him to you. I think he's just a wonderful little puppy, and I think you're really going to enjoy him. Now, before we get started, like always, I like to remind people of a few things. First and foremost, that he is still a puppy, and he is unique in his own personality. And he's really a sweetheart, but you do have to be patient and allow him to adjust and to get used to you. As well as just as he grows out of this puppy stage, there is going to be times that he may try and test the water. And so it's important to remember the secret to all dog training, and that is consistency. Make sure that you are consistent with him, consistent in rewarding him, using the okay word and giving him some type of reward, whether that be treats, toys, or compassion. It is important that you are as close to 100% at giving him some type of reward for the first year. That way you can really solidify his training, and to the point that it basically becomes muscle memory, to where he does it just out of respect for you and without even really thinking about it. It's also important that you're consistent in correcting him, giving him that correction when needed. Our correction is no or nope, and I treat that basically, it's based on the behavior that he just performed. If he breaks a stay, I'm just simply going to tell him no, and I'll have him do it again, making sure that I always end on a correct behavior. Whereas if he does something a little bit more serious, like maybe he tries to jump up on me or try and steal food out of my hand, I'm going to be a lot more firm in the way that I tell him no. I do that by adjusting my voice fluctuation as well as my body language. Now, over the next couple days, I would make sure that you focus more on building a relationship with him before you expect him to do the commands to the extent that we have set here. It will take him a couple days, maybe even a couple weeks, to work back up to the standard that he is here. But I would expect him to do the manners. I would expect him to sit as a greeting and not jump on me, and to wait for his food and through doorways. But the commands, I would take it slow over the next couple days before you really start pressing him. Now just a couple things about Dash. Dash is really a sweetheart, but if you do apply too much pressure too soon, he will shut down. And so make sure that first you develop that relationship before you start really pressing on the commands and really building those stays to a longer duration. Also, just one thing about him, if he gets overly excited, he does pee a little bit. That's something he will grow out of. Same thing as if you frighten him too much, he will pee a little bit. Like I said, he will grow out of that. But I'm going to teach you how to prevent that so that he does it very little. Now, in the airport, I probably would be prepared for that, because that is a huge stress around a puppy. Leaving what's comfortable, going with a stranger, going through a very stressful place. And so I would be prepared for that. I will have him go to the bathroom beforehand and try and really set you off on the right foot. But I will talk about that in detail as we go through the program. There will be points that I'll stop and cover it a little bit more. But I am going to go through the full program. We're going to talk about socialization just for a second. Then I'll get him out and I'll show you his manners and commands, and then we'll do his house training and leash training. So socialization is the most important thing for me, and it's the most important thing that you can do for a puppy to really set them off on the right foot. And so what we do in socialization is we spend the first 2 weeks really focusing on that, and then we throw it in throughout the program. But what you're doing is you're trying to help him be comfortable in uncomfortable situations. And so we expose him to different people, different things each day, different animals, sounds, car rides, vacuums, hair dryers, just as many new situations as we can, but we do it in a controlled environment, and we base everything we do off of kind of his reaction to a situation. If he's really comfortable, then we'll kick it up a notch. If you see his tail duck and he's really nervous, then we slow it down and we really ease him into the situation. That way we can really help him to where we won't have to deal with timid behaviors or anxiety or aggression. And so we also do that throughout the program, doing commands in new areas or around different animals or around different distractions. And you're basically going to have to do the same thing in introducing him into your home. If he seems really nervous, take it easy, give him a treat, pet him, ease him into the situation, make sure that it's comfortable so that he doesn't have an adverse reaction to it. You don't want something to become just negative right off the bat. So with that, now we're going to move into our manners. And so the first manner that we are going to show you is his gates and his doorways. And so when I let him out of the crate, I expect him to stay. Same thing going through the house door. This is one of those manners that you will expect right off. And so if he did try and break, I might simply close the door, block him with my leg. It wouldn't be until he was really persistent on pushing his way out that I would actually tell him to wait. So we're going to let him out now. Also, before I do, this is one of those times that I see him get excited and pee the very most. And so what I'm going to do is when I let him out, I'm not going to pay him any attention until he sits down at my feet. And that's his greeting. And then when I go down to see him, I'm not going to hover over him. I'm going to crouch down and go to his level so I'm not as intimidating. So we're going to let him out. Okay, good boy. Good boy. Good boy. So I'm going to wait for him to come up and greet me. And I'm going to give him some time because I don't want to press it. I don't want him to pee a little bit because he's a little bit overly excited. But now where he sat down, I'm going to come down to him and I'm going to pet him more in the chest and on the sides than on top of the head. And you can see he didn't pee. And so that's great. He's a little bit more comfortable. He's at ease instead of you immediately hovering over him or asking him to do something, giving him time to get out and not be as excited. Good boy, huh? Good boy. But that's the expectation. Anytime we thought about ringing bells, we're going to look, see if he does. He might have to go to the bathroom. If not, he might just be sniffing, which is fine. But anytime I do call him to me, Dash, come here. I am going to wait for him to sit down before I do give him any attention. Good boy. It gets him to look up at me and get his eye contact, as well as he's not going to be jumping on me. And you can see he does get out of the crate and he's real excited, and that's fine. That's just a puppy in him. He loves it. He's a very happy dog. And so also the thing that I like to do in the morning, because he does have so much energy right off the bat, is I'll immediately take him for a walk or off. Good boy. Good boy. Take him for a walk or go out and play. Just kind of burn some of that energy off. So where he did just kind of hop up on the crate like that, he can smell his bowl of food. I'll talk about jumping just for a second. So we've taught him the command off. And as soon as I say that, I expect him to get down, just as she did. And that was great. Now, of course, the goal is you don't want him to jump on anything, but just remember that command. If he does, tell him off. Now, if I had a hold of the leash and maybe you approach someone and try to jump up on them, that would be one point I would use a physical correction. It's just a leash correction, and all I'm going to do is 2 pops on the leash. And I'll accompany that with off. And so the pops on the leash, you're not trying to pull him backwards, but I'm just trying to get his attention. Also, it's important that if he were to come up and I thought he was going to jump on me, it's important that I never step backwards. As soon as I step backwards, I'm encouraging him to come. It turns into a game. Where instead, I would step into the jump. That way I'm restricting the space. A lot of time he won't even jump because you threw his timing off. But then if he did, I'd bring up my knee into him and block him. Good boy. Good boy, huh? Good boy. Now, also with that, if he does, dogs do have this pack mentality, and so if he finds someone in your family that he wants to jump on or he wants to steal food from, usually that's because he looks at them as someone lower than him in that pack order. And so at that point, I would take him by the leash and I'd have that person call him up, and I'd walk him up to them, and as soon as he tried to jump, I'd give him that leash correction, tell him off, and I'd walk away. So he doesn't get any attention from him. It's not positive at all. But then if he were to approach them and he sat down, I would have them go down and good boy, good boy. Give him lots of attention, lots of love, make it very rewarding. That way you're kind of setting that expectation. So now I am going to show you his meal time. So he is a lab, he loves his food, he loves to inhale his food. And so I do like to switch it up, feed him in a slow feeding bowl, or I'll put a tennis ball in in his food. That way he has to eat around it. It slows him down from just swallowing his food. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring him over here. Come here. There, Dad. And turn him around so you can see him. And when I feed him, I'm going to have him hold a stay. And so I'm just going to tell him, stay. Okay, good boy. Good boy. Now, with him being so excited over his food, I want to make sure that he doesn't have any food aggression. So I do like to handle him while he eats, and every so often I'll throw something good like a treat in with his meal. That way it's not a negative experience, me being right here with him. I'm not always going to take his food away, but I will every once in a while just to help him out. Make sure that there's no aggression towards me with taking his food. Throw a treat in there, stick my hands down. I want to make sure that he's not aggressive at all towards me, in which he's not. He's done really well. I just gave him about, probably not even quite a fourth of a cup, just to show you that. When I do feed him, I give him a cup and a half morning and night. Morning it's usually around 7:30. At night, it's as close to 6 o'clock as possible. And the reason for that is I like to give him 4 hours before I put him up to really clear his system. And we put him to bed at 10. Good boy. Now, if we were to see any aggression during this manners portion, this is when we'd work on it. But I haven't noticed any aggression from him. Like I said, he's really a sweetheart. The one time that aggression sometimes does arise, it's really not aggression, but it's mistaken for it. And that's with kids. Children are like the greatest thing to a puppy. They run, they squeal, they make things really fun and crazy, and so your puppy's going to feed off of that energy. And so they just want to play with them. They end up grabbing a pant leg or an arm, and I want to make sure that doesn't happen. And so I set a rule that anytime a kid plays with my puppy, they have a toy. That way if they're running, it gives him something that he can go for. Or if the kids get nervous, they can throw the toy and direct the dog's attention away from them. That way you're not going to have accidents happen. Good boy. Come here. Good boy. Drop it. Good boy. Good boy. Just real quick, I'll talk about Drop It, where we have the toy out and he just offered it. When I ask him to drop it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it really still, and I'll just ask him, drop it. No, drop it. Good boy. And I expect him to physically release it. Now, with soft toys, you do have to be really careful of teeth getting stuck in them. That's why I'll never pull against him, because I don't want to pull out a tooth. And randomly, same thing as with his food, I don't want him to think every time I ask him to drop it, I'm just taking away his toy. Come here. Come here. Oh, good boy. Good boy. But sometimes when I ask him to drop it, I'll give him a treat. Just make it positive. And so, drop it. Nope. Good boy. Make it really positive. Also, I'll always throw the toy as well. He does love the game tug, which is fine for dogs, especially if they're not a hunting dog. But tug is fine. He just always has to understand that you always win. He never gets away with just taking it and running. But when I'm done, I'll just hold it real still, and which he knew what I was going to do right there. We've played enough with him. Good boy. But when I'm done, I'll just take it and I'll hold it really still, and I'll ask him to drop it. Now, if it's long like this, and he has a hold of it, and doesn't want to give it up, and you have it, I'll hold it on both sides, and I'll just turn, drop it. Good boy. I'll just turn my knuckles in and pinch his canines against his lips, causing a little bit of discomfort. He'll just open right up. Now, if he had it, and he just absolutely did not want to give it to me, there's one little trick. And what it is I'll slide my thumb kind of right in between his molars and his canines, and I'll press down on his tongue. And I'll show you that. You just stick your thumb right in there, and he's just going to open his mouth as wide as he can because he doesn't like your thumb in there. Oh, good boy, good boy. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy. But I'll just ask him, drop it. Good boy. Good boy. And ask him to physically release it. Now, as you can see, he does love his toys, and so going out and playing is going to be important for him. Good boy. Good boy. Now, this also brings up our next manner, which is chewing. So, chewing has to happen. It's one of those behaviors you just can't avoid, and the reason being is he is teething. And so, he actually lost a tooth this morning, but he still has quite a few more to go, as well as he will be cutting his molars. And so, with that, he has to chew. So we train on a base of avoiding and replacing. If you can avoid giving him free access to toys, to shoes, to your kids' toys, of course that is going to be the best way to prevent something from happening. And so that's not really possible in your house. There's always something he has access to. And so that's where replacing comes in. Come here. And replacing, if I saw him go up and he started chewing on a pillow, or maybe one of our soft beds, I would tell him no, and then I would give him something of equal texture to chew on. So something soft, give him something soft. If he goes up and starts chewing on your table leg or a chair, I'll tell him no, and I'll give him something like a bully stick, something hard that he can really get into. And he starts chewing on shoelaces, give him a rope. Just try and match what he's chewing on, because he's going to be chewing based on needs, whatever his mouth needs. And so be prepared for that. Now, go to bed. Good boy. Now, boredom is basically the cause of chewing. Now, there's two sides to that though. One, he's bored because maybe you have a downtime, you're reading a book, watching a show, where he's just going to be laying on his bed. At that point, I'll just give him something to chew on, something to direct his attention. That way he's not going to wander off and find something to chew on. Now, on the other side of that is if, like this toy, he's done with it, I'm going to immediately take it away. I don't give him any free access to his own things, because then he's going to get bored with them, and he's going to leave it and he'll go find something new to chew on. And so as soon as if I give him something to chew on, as soon as he leaves it, I pick it up, put it away. And that way there is some excitement still left with the toy. He's not going to be bored with it, and you can kind of rotate things, and he's not going to have free access to everything. So just keep some value attached to his objects. Oh, buddy. Come here. Come on. Good boy. Drop it. Good boy. Good boy. So, last manner is dealing with his mouth. And this is going to be really important for you, especially you can see how excited he is, and food is just that much more of a motivator. And so I want him to be very cautious when he takes food from me. And so one, I'm not going to give it to him between the thumb and forefinger. That, I'm just asking him to bite my fingers when I do that. Instead, I'll give it to him in the palm of my hand. A couple reasons for that. One is I can hide it with my thumb as I present it. Also, if he were to jump up and was just real excited for the food, it's a natural reaction to close your fist and pull away. And that's exactly what I'm going to do, is if he's real excited, I would just pull away, and I'll tell him, gently, gently. And I expect him to be very cautious at that point, taking the treat. I don't want to fill his teeth. I don't want him to bite me. And so, come here. So that's really important, especially if he's real excited. I'll just tell him gently, gently, and I expect him to be very cautious taking that. And he's done great with that. Yeah. So I believe that's it for our manners. Now we'll move into our obedience commands. So with our commands, we're going to start with our two most basic commands, the ones that we teach him from day one. The first is just to get his eye contact. You're getting his attention. And so I'll try and distract him. Watch me. Okay, good boy. All I'm looking for is his eye contact. And you can throw that in just randomly whenever, just if you need him to look up at you. Maybe he kind of knows the drill now, huh? But even, you can see I can lure him away with this treat. Watch me. Okay, good boy. And I just want him to make eye contact with me. So the reason for that command, well, the most important reason is to get his attention. And once you have that eye contact, you know that he's looking at you, he's focused on you. Even if then he switches back to the food, you know that he switched his attention to you. And so that can be, as simple as you're cooking, you drop something on the floor you don't want him to get. Or maybe you're walking him, there's something on the ground. You can ask him to look at you and give him a reward and keep moving. Or it can be as complex as he's running for traffic and you just need him to stop and look at you. And so that's why it's so important that you keep this command and keep it really positive. Every time you ask him, I give him a high value reward, which food is a high value reward. And so that way, when you need him to stop and look at you, and you've kept it 100%, just giving him some type of reward, hopefully very high value, you can expect that he will look at you. It's kind of a backup command to come, which come is our next command, and that's one that a lot of people burn. And so it's a very simple command. All I'm asking for is him to get to me, and I am going to lead with his name because I teach him his name the same way I do watch me. And so, Dash, come! Good boy, good boy. It's really hard to show you because we don't have a lot of room in here. But the reason come is so quickly killed is one, because of overuse, and two, it's because of basically a negative experience. Dash, come! Good boy. And so overuse would be if you're just in the house and he's like 3 feet away and it's come, and you just keep using it for a reason that you really don't need to. Instead, if he's near me in the house, I might just something like that to get his attention. And so if you don't have to use that command, just don't. Just get his attention, hook a leash on him, go. Whereas on the other side, that negative experience. And so that could be something as simple as he is chasing after something in the park, and you call him to come, you hook a leash on and you leave. And he realizes that, oh, well, if she asked me to come, it's because she's going to end whatever I'm doing and what I'm enjoying. And so like I said, if you don't have to use it, don't. And if it's in that situation, make sure when he gets to you, you praise him, you make it so rewarding that he came to you, that it's twice as rewarding as chasing whatever he was or whatever he was doing. And the way that I like to work on this command is, one, if you have a fenced-in backyard, go out there, have a bucket of treats, let him run around, let him play. And every minute or two, call him to come, give him a treat, let him go again. Do that 9, 10 times. For that one time, you call him to come and you go inside. That way the positive outweighs the negative. It's very, very important that if you do call your dog to come, that you never chastise them. Even if they were doing something that they absolutely shouldn't have been doing. If you call him to come, when he gets to you, you are very positive, you are very rewarding. Otherwise, you will burn that command and it will be worthless to you. So he's done really well with that. We've added a lot of distractions and he's done great. Good boy, huh? Good boy. So the next couple commands do have hand signals. And so sit is a scoop over the nose, just simply like that. Down is I'll take my hand flat and go down, and then stay is a stop sign. And so I'll show you those. Come here. We'll get him up on his bed so you can see. So sit, just like that. Down, stay. And with those, the treat comes at the end. Also, when we have him stay, we like to add what we call the 3 Ds, and that's distance, duration, and distraction. By adding those 3 things, you can really build a solid stay. Okay, good boy. Good boy. So, sit's the same thing. Come here. Sit. Nope. Come here. Sit. Stay. If he breaks, I'll take him back to the same spot and have him do it again. Okay, good boy, good boy. So, and I'll show you the down again. Sit. Down. Good boy. And just so you know, I mean, you can do that wherever. We've practiced on different textures. Doesn't have to be on the bed. Sit. Down. Good boy. But, so there's a good example right there. You see how his butt popped up? When I do ask him to go down, I want to make sure his elbows are down so he's not hovering. And then if I'm going to ask him to stay, if I saw that butt come up, which I was just doing it down and so it doesn't matter as much, but if I'm going to have him stay, if that pops back up, I'm going to have him do it again. Make sure that he's all the way down and that he's focused before you ask him for that stay. Oh, good boy. Good boy. So the next two commands don't necessarily have hand signals, but I always put myself in a position where they can read my body language. And so, for instance, I'll tell him, Dash, go to bed. And I'll just step and point. I don't care what position he's in, gently, as long as all four paws are on the bed, and he is expected to stay if I put him there. Okay, good boy. But if you were just walking over and he hopped on the bed like that, you didn't ask him, he doesn't have to stay, and you shouldn't have to release him off of there. And so the next command is very similar. And so I'll tell him, Dash, crate. And I expect him to go in. The treat will come when he goes into the crate, because some of the time you will be closing that door. Okay. Now the crate command, like come, is one of those that you can burn. And it's because maybe you only use that command when you're going to hook him up for the night or you're leaving for a couple hours. He just gets to the point that, oh, if she asked me to go in the crate, it's because she's going to leave me there and lock me in. And so then they'll turn and run the other direction. And so with the crate command, I do like to keep some repetitions. I'll have him run in 4 or 5 times before, and give him a reward, of course, before I lock him up for the night. Good boy. But he's done wonderful. And just touching on that peeing a little bit again, you can see that he's comfortable out and about. He hasn't peed at all, and that's great. That's why it's so important, like I mentioned before, that when you do let him out, you let him get used to you and run around and then present that sit. Usually at that point he's calming down, and so he's not going to pee. He hasn't excited pee doing any of these commands, even though you can see that he's worked up. And so just a little tip or a tidbit I thought I would throw in there. But that does conclude our commands. So now we'll talk about the crate training along with the house training, and then we'll do the leash training. So for a second I am going to be talking a little bit, and so I'm just going to give him a bully stick so he can lay down and chew on it. No? Gently. So if he rears up like that, I'm going to wait till he goes back down, all 4 paws are on the ground, before I give it to him, just reinforcing him not jumping. But so the crate training, we've spent a lot of time making sure he's comfortable in the crate. And so right now at our facility, he can sleep through the night, 8 hours. Usually we put him to bed at 10, and we get him out between 6:30 and 7. And he sleeps through the night without having any accidents. Also, he should be good for up to 4 hours in the crate without needing a break. Now, that's at our facility. That's him completely comfortable here. It's going to be a little bit different at your house because he's going home. Like I said, the stress, the transition, he's got, you can about guarantee 2 weeks of him being a little bit stressed out or uncomfortable around your family and around your home. And so if he starts whining in the middle of the night, chances are he has to go to the bathroom. And so I would get up, let him out, let him go to the bathroom, bring him right back in. If he whines in the crate, you take him to the bathroom, you put him right back in. He doesn't get to play, he doesn't get to run around. It's just to do that thing and right back in. You don't want him to start to think that if he whines, he can get out. And so that definitely could happen over the next couple days because the transition often causes them to have to go to the bathroom more frequently. Also, they'll get a loose stool. If there's any bacteria in their system, it'll just flare up. And so, just so you know. Also, the other thing that could happen is the first time or the first couple days that you put him away, he could immediately start to whine. And the reason there is new situation. He's enjoyed being around you. It's something new, and he just doesn't want to be apart from you. And so he might just start to whine at the very beginning. In that case, I might throw a blanket over the crate, just make it a little bit darker so that he can't see you. The other thing is I might give him a bully stick, which is what he has right now. I would also maybe give him a marrow bone. Those are the only two things that I would give him in his crate, but those will just help him relax and go to sleep. Now, as for stuff in the crate, he has slept in there with towels and things, and you can put a bed in there. I don't like to for the first little bit, because that way if he does pee in the crate, it's just so much easier to clean up. But definitely he should be good in there, that if you want to, that's completely up to you. So yeah, but I would also use the crate as your asset, especially where we're going to talk about the house training. With the house training, it's really, really important that you give him 100% supervision. And if you can't, put him in the crate. Like I said, he's completely comfortable in there, so use it as an asset. Put him in there, even if you just need a little break from him, use it. Or if you're going grocery shopping, put him in the crate. But with the house training, I'm going to teach you how to transition the bell. I'll teach you the way that I like to do it. There's a couple different ways to do it, and so if this one doesn't work for you, let me know. We'll give you a different way to transition it. But before I do that, I just want to talk about some signs to look for. So immediately when he comes out of the crate in the morning, or if he's been in there for a couple hours, he's going to have to go to the bathroom, and so you're going to use that to your advantage to get a repetition of ringing the bells. And so when I let him out, I'll take him straight over to the door, let him ring the bell, and I'll take him out to the bathroom. Some signs that he may need to go: if he starts to whine, or if he starts sniffing real heavily. The other one would be if he starts doing circles, or he keeps walking over to the door. I would just take him out, just to save yourselves the possibility of an accident happening. Also, within about an hour of him eating, he usually has to go. The other thing that I would do to help you is I would limit his water intake, especially where it's getting cooler, we're reaching fall. You don't have to worry about dehydration right now. I would give him water with his meals, and then maybe 3 or 4 times throughout the day. But I would limit how much he drinks, because he can just swallow a whole bowl really quickly. And he's already going to have to go to the bathroom more frequently, and so don't make that worse by giving him tons of water. So now I'll show you the bell. Come here. Where are you at? Come here. Come here. There you go. Good boy. Good boy. Where's your bully stick? Drop it. Good boy. So, I am going to remove the extra bells. There we go. Because the reason I like to do this one that I'm going to show you is because it gets him really excited about ringing the bell. And he's going to go and seek it out, and he'll ring it tons of times, which is great. That is exactly what you want. You want as many times as you can handle him seeing the bell, ringing it, taking him out for the first couple days. Of course, that will ease off, but the way that I think of it is the transition takes 2 to 4 weeks. If you're really consistent with the bells, it'll be 2 weeks of inconvenience for a fully house-trained dog. I've had a lot of people follow this instruction, never have an accident in their home. Had people that haven't followed it, and then they end up calling me freaking out because their dog's having accidents. But I can promise you that it's just better to follow it and to do it right the first time. And so bear with a lot of repetitions of going outside, especially for the first couple days. But what I'm going to do, come here, is I just want to get him ringing the bell. And so I'm just going to hang it right in front of his nose. I'm going to take some treats, break them up really small, and I will mark it every time he touches the bell. And then when we go over to the door, I'll switch it up just a little bit. So let me break these up. Alright, so I'm just going to hang it out here. I want him actually leaning and actually hitting the bell. And so what you're going to do is just stare at the bell. You can jingle it a little bit. These ones don't ring super well. But I want him just to reach out and touch it. Okay, good boy. I'll mark it. Okay, good boy. It's alright if it takes a little bit of time, because what he's doing is he's processing it. Just really trying to figure out what you want and whether it's, whether it's worth it. Okay, good boy. And so you get him real excited about ringing the bell. Okay, good boy. And he'll start to quicken up. Okay, good boy. Okay, good boy. Oh. Okay, gently. Good boy. So now once he's really ringing the bell out of my hand, I'm going to walk over to the door and I'll have him ring it off the door. The first couple times, saying and doing the exact same thing. Come here. Okay, good boy. Okay, good boy. Then once he's reaching out, okay, good boy. I'm going to switch the wording just a little bit. Okay, outside. Okay, outside. Good boy. Okay, outside. Now this time I'm going to take him out. Okay, outside. Good boy. I'll also expect him to wait at the doorway. Okay. So having him wait here. Nope. If he tries to break, we'll just tell him no. Okay, good boy. Good boy. Now, if I was at your house, I would turn around, have him ring the bell 2 or 3 more times, go straight back out. Do that 3 or 4 times. And he's real excited about the bell. That's why I'm going to remove him, is so that I can actually talk and finish the demonstration. But he did go, which is great. When I go out there, I take him by the leash to a specific area. I'll give him a minute or 2 to sniff around. And then once he does go, I'll tell him, good outside, good boy. And I'll pet him, make it really, really positive. That way he's a good boy. If he doesn't go, don't say anything, just come straight back in. And then, like I said, if I was doing that at your house, I'd turn around, have him ring it a couple more times, go back out, come back in, have him ring it, go back out. Even if he went the first time, I just want to get those repetitions of him ringing the bell and going outside. At that point, what I would do, after you do that 3 or 4 times, come in and set a timer for 30 minutes, especially for the rest of the first, probably most of the second day. And every 30 minutes, I would take him over. All I got to do is stand by the door, stare at the bells, let him ring them, and then take him outside. Give him a minute or 2 to go, and then come back in. The one exception there is if he's in the crate, you don't need to get him out every 30 minutes. And so after, the first maybe 2 days of doing every 30 minutes, start to lengthen that back up. 45 minutes to an hour to 2 hours. 2 hours is our standard. Every dog that we send home should be able to hold himself for at least 2 hours. Most of them can do it longer, but for the next 2 to 4 weeks, I would absolutely not let him go over 2 hours. Also, along with lengthening the time, I would start lengthening yourself between the bell. Start out the first couple days, you're going to be standing right there, staring over it. And then as you start lengthening the time, take a few feet back from the bell. And to the end to where, if you have a chair somewhere near within about 10 feet, pull up a chair and just sit there and stare at the bell. He's going to be reading your body language, trying to figure out what you want from him. And so yeah, if you have any questions with the house training, please don't hesitate to give me a call. I want to help you out. I want to make sure that everything gets taken care of immediately, that you don't start having accidents in your home. Also, I would suggest leaving a short leash attached to him. That way, gently, good boy. If you needed to grab him and rush him outside, you have a quick way to grab him. Now, if he does have an accident in your house, if you don't see him, there's nothing you can do. The time has passed. That's why it's so important for that 100% supervision. Give it to him or put him in a crate. If you do witness him start to squat, I'm going to scare him, is what I'm going to do. I'm going to stomp. I'm going to, no. I'm going to grab him and rush him outside. You want to create a negative experience with that action. And then on the other hand, so if you caught him and he maybe halfway down on the floor, you run him outside and he finishes outside, I'm going to be really positive. Oh, good boy, good outside, good boy. Pet him, make that really positive. You want there to be some black and white They're absolutely not okay in the house. You're going to get scared if you do that, where it's going to be very positive. You're going to get a treat if you do it outside. So, like I said, you have any questions, let me know. Let's take care of it immediately. He's done very well, so you'll be happy with him. So now we will talk about our leash work, and we'll go outside. Now I'm going to talk about the leash work in here and then show you outside, because we've had pretty nasty weather the last couple days. So we take him on two types of walks. The first is an off leash or a long leash walk. Until I know that he is going to come back to me every time, I'm going to keep him on a long leash. And that can be a 15-foot leash, or it could be a 50-foot lead. But during those walks, I'm taking him out. I'm just letting him be a dog. He's running around, he's playing, he's sniffing. Once he's really reliably coming back, I'll take him off leash. When I do that, I like to take my little pouch here, take a pocket full of treats, and every minute or two, I'll call him to come, give him a treat, let him go again. That way you're really working on that come. It's really positive. He's also checking in and he's staying close. And those types of walks are really important for dogs. It's great for their mental health, allows them just to get out and to play and be a dog. Now, the second type of walk is our attention walk, and that's where I want him next to me. I want him walking on a loose leash and paying attention to me. Every so often I will give him a treat when he's looking at me. When we started doing that walk, every time he looked up, I'd say okay, and I'd mark up. Now we're to the point where I'm weaning him off a little bit. I still like to use treats during the walks just to keep him interested and make sure that it's more positive, or it's more exciting to look at me than the distractions around. And so you'll see me do that. The other command that we do have with, we do have two commands with the leash walking. First is let's go, just signifying we're moving. The second will be easy if he starts to pull. Now I will try and get him to pull just a little bit on our walk, just so I can show you that command. But if he does start to pull, I'll tell him easy, and I'll give him 2 pops on the leash. Simple leash correction. At that point, I expect him to put the slack back in the leash and walk back to me. At the bare minimum, I expect him to stop pulling and look back at me. Now, if he saw something that he just absolutely wanted to get to, at that point, I'd root myself, I'd tell him easy, and if he doesn't respond, then I'm going to tell him let's go, I'll give him a leash correction, and I'll walk the opposite direction. You don't have to walk very far. In fact, sometimes I'll do just quick little clips, 10 feet back and forth, back and forth. But as soon as he regains his composure, I'll tell him let's go, and I'll walk again towards the distraction. As soon as he gets too distracted, flip around, walk back. Like I said, you can do that as many times as you want, just to get his focus back on you. So with that, we will walk out, and I will show you his leash walk. So generally on these walks, I do like to have him sit before I start, but he might be a little reluctant to because our ground's wet. But that just gets his attention, and then I'm just going to tell him, let's go. Let's go. Thank you so much for allowing us to train Dash. He really has been a great dog. I think you'll be happy with him. Like I said, if you have any questions, please feel free to call me. Let me know immediately. Just real quick, I did want to show you just putting on his vest. We've worked on having him sit when we do that, and so he should just be fine. We slip that over, and he has no problem letting us put that on, as well as taking it off. I'll just ask him to sit again. Good boy. And you can just pop that off. and he has no problems with the vest. So once again, thank you. We appreciate your business and appreciate you allowing us to train Dash. And let us know if you have any questions. Thanks.